For those who are guests, I'm Steve Crescenzo, the president. We do have some guests from the Piedmont Club with us tonight, and I've mentioned this early on to Land, but if you would like to join and get on our mailing list, we have set up we will be doing virtual meetings for the rest of the year. And we've set up a membership rate of $15 for the folks from Piedmont if they want to just join our guild for the rest of the year, and therefore you'll get direct emails and announcements as to what we're doing. So, and if you have any questions, Jim Duxbury knows how to get in touch with me, and you can just give me a call or an email, and I will get you set up. Just a couple of announcements. We will be doing a wood sale. So with the cancellation of many of the shows and symposiums this year, Mike Smith had been, who's most of you know is one of our members and a wood supplier to many of the stores and to many of the shows. He ended up with 2 crates of wood at his shop down in Bailey that didn't have a home, and he's out in Oregon right now dealing with some health issues. And so I've been talking to him quite frequently, and we made a deal to buy those 2 crates of wood. They were destined for SWAT, which got canceled. So we've bought these 2 crates of wood. It's a combination of spindle blanks and bowl blanks. We sent an announcement out today, an email with, we're going to have a sale next Friday and Saturday, the 28th and 29th. The wood will be at a great discount because we got it at a very good price. So, but in order to do this in a socially distanced way, we've created a sign-up sheet with 8 slots on both Friday and Saturday. I believe there's 1 slot left on Friday, and all the slots are open on 1 slot left on Friday, and all the slots are open on Saturday. You sign up, and what we'll do is you have to come at your appointed time, and you can't stay any more than a half an hour. And it'll be cash or check. We're not going to do credit cards on this one, just to keep things a little simpler. But it's at our storage unit all this information is in the email that came out today. But it'll be at our storage unit. So at your appointed time, we'll come out, we'll open the gate, guide you to our unit. You can spend a half an hour going through the shelves, and those shelves are 18 inches deep, and most of this wood is stacked at least 2 deep on the shelves. There's a lot of wood there. It took 2 loads in my pickup truck in the bed of my truck to bring it up here. So, that it's there, and you can reach out to me or Norm or Bob if you have any questions. But it's there. Let's just see, and we will put a limit on some of the larger 10 and 12-inch bowl and platter banks. There's not as many of those, and we just want to share that wealth as we go on. And there are a couple of pretty highly figured pieces that we've pulled out, and they're priced separately, but everything else is just priced by the board foot. And last thing on that is that masks are required. That if you're there, once you get to the gate, that we will request that you wear a mask the whole time you're there, just to protect us and yourself. So, anybody have any questions on that? You can hit your space bar to unmute yourself and ask a question. Is everybody good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that, Steve. But if you have stuff left over, I'm not going to be able to be in town Friday and Saturday. If you have stuff left over, are you going to do this again or something else?
Yes, we'll see. And yeah, Terry, and again, when you get back in town, you can just call me and I'll meet you there, or Norm. One of us will just go over with you. If all the slots fill up for this weekend, we'll add some more slots either for Sunday or for another weekend. But but like I said, I think we have 16 slots available right now, but there will be wood left over. I mean, I doubt we'll sell all this, so we'll either use it, we'll just continue to sell it, or use it for workshops and stuff. So
Okay, thanks, Steve.
all right. Any other questions on the wood sale? All right, and all the wood is, well, 95% of it is, I did bring some stuff from my shop that we used that was intended for the Barbadill class that we didn't have, and so that's just anchor sealed on the ends. Everything that came from Mike's shop is waxed, and it's green. And with that, hopefully you noticed that at the end of this meeting, just as we're not doing, since we can't do our raffles at the end of the meetings like we normally do, but what we're going to do is we're going to do a giveaway. And I've created 2 boxes of wood from the wood we've gotten from Mike's, plus a gift certificate to Craft Supply. And at the end of after we finish the show and tell tonight, Norm's going to use his random picker thing and come up with names, and we'll just it'll be a little, first time we're trying this, it might be a little cumbersome, but yeah, those are the pictures of the prize boxes. We'll but yeah, you have to be here to pick them up, and if you're the winner, we'll just make arrangements for you to come get the wood. It's at the storage unit. That's
Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, about the wood, is it domestic or exotic?
It's all domestic. I would expect some of it might be from the West Coast, but there's a lot of maple. There's some cherry. There's some walnut. There's a bunch of Lebanon cedar. Trying to remember. There's some mimosa I saw. There's a bunch of pecan. So and again, there's a bunch of ambrosia maple in there. So it's the stuff that Mike would typically bring to meetings, and he didn't normally have much in the way of exotics, but some of the stuff I believe came from the West Coast.
It's about 80% domestic, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just a couple pieces of burl in there, and we may there may be some other stuff that from that I've stored here, and Bob may have some club stuff at his house, but it's all it is pretty much domestic. All right. Any other questions on the wood sale? All right. Last thing is
Stop sharing.
talked about the raffle. All right. So we're going to let Ted just talk about our next meeting, which is tips, tricks, and jigs, and just a quick insight what's coming. But
Steve,
yeah.
Steve, before you do that, I want to thank the leadership for putting this wood sale on. Great job.
All right. Thank you. No, I think it helps us, and it also helps Mike. So appreciate that, Preston. All right, Ted, you want to just go? We don't need to go through the whole calendar, but just get through tips and tricks and make sure everybody's up to speed on that.
Yeah, that's our next meeting actually is September 10th, tips and tricks. So that's, our annual event where you bring your tip or trick, send a photo in, much like for the gallery. And then you can talk about that, 3 to 5 minutes, something like that, when we put it up, to the rest of the audience. So that should be a fun event. And then following that on the 17th, we have another show and tell like tonight. And then October 8th, we have photography for the wood turner. So we have our own John Vaith, who was a professional, or was a professional, he's retired now, photographer, and he's going to hold a session for us. Steve and I went through some stuff with him today. It's going to be really cool. Some of the things he's going to teach us. So it'll be really great for us to help display off and show off our stuff, not only for these meetings, but if you want to send them to other people, your friends, family, or if you're selling your wares and so forth, that'll be a great session for you. And then following that on the 16th will be another show and tell. And then on November 12th, we have the small projects demo. So we normally do something on that that is small gifts and or decorations, holiday decoration type stuff that you can make for your friends and family and so forth. So that'll be on the 12th, and we'll probably have a show and tell after that on the following week on the 19th. And then December 10th is the shop tours that will have at least 2 shop tours where we'll go through and look at shops and talk about those. There'll be videos, but we will be able to stop it or go back and talk about any questions you might have and so forth about different setups and so forth in shops. So that's it for the calendar, Steve.
All right, so Ted, could you just cover the logistics on, so the tips and tricks, it's similar to what we're doing tonight where you just have to send pictures of your people, but you just want to cover that, the logistics for that, Ted, so everybody understands what you need to do there?
Yeah, you just, if you have I think we have a limit of 2 on it. I don't know if we've sent that out yet or not, but I think we have thank you. I think we have a limit of 2 items to send in for it. So you just send in a picture of it. Like this is a picture I sent in right here, actually, that Norm put up there. And I've got 2 or 3 things right in the photo there. You could bring, that tip or trick with you to your, to your laptop or whatever you're doing, and because you may want to end up, displaying it or pointing out something on it differently. So you can do that as well. But just send your picture in, much like you do for the gallery, and then we'll post them up there just like we're going to do for the gallery tonight. And you can speak to that and answer any questions and so forth, or make any special points about it.
All right, anybody have any questions on that? Again, it's a little different than we normally run it just because we're virtual, but I think it'll be, should be a fun meeting.
I might add for the Piedmont woodturners, if you've never seen this tips and tricks, there's always some that are extremely creative and many that you've never seen before.
Well, Jim, thanks for that, because I forgot we got prizes set up as well. We have a prize for the most creative, one for best executed, and one for the jiggiest. So 3 different prizes set up. I think they're cash prizes of $50, right?
We haven't nailed that down. There will be, It may be a combination of wood, probably a combination of wood and some gift certificates.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sure you'll remember the jiggiest.
Yeah.
In case anyone doesn't, just to give a little context, some years ago, everyone, I'm sure, if you're a member of our club, you remember Todd from way back when. He blew our socks off with a battery hedge trimmer that he used to shake paint cans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was definitely the jiggiest.
Well,
At
Jim,
your own risk.
we're counting on you, Jim, to bring something jiggy.
Yeah, never mind. That was at your own risk, you shook that thing.
And not only that, it could shake multiple cans at a time.
Yes.
I think it was 6 cans at a time you could put in that thing. It was great. So, all right, thanks, Ted. Again, and to the Piedmont folks, you're welcome to join us. We would love it if you would join the guild for the rest of the year for $15. That way, we have better ways to communicate with you. But you are welcome to be part of the fun and to submit. So, all right, I think we're ready to start the gallery. We'll do this the way we normally have with, when it's your time up, just go ahead and let me see if I can adjust my screen here so I can see. All right. So Jim, you're up.
Looks like me.
What?
Wood turning, not just turning wood, you have to learn how to drink wine and the rest of it. This teaches precision gluing and also contouring and the use of a contour gauge how to make a template that fits a socket. This particular wine glass will be written up and it will be published in the Wood Turning magazine coming out next month. There's a lot to wine drinking. If you've ever taken a wine tasting course, I thought it was going to be kind of hokey, but it's a real art. The shape of the glass itself is shaped for the different kinds of wine. The length of the stem is not just a long, thin glass stem. It's actually so that the heat from your hand does not transmit to the wine. And there's the whole thing, the shape of the globe and all of that is shaped for the kind of wine. I came up with this because we have groups every now and then that go outside with wine glasses, or anyway, there's wine glasses get dumped all over the place. And by making this short and a small, a pretty good sized base, the heat doesn't transmit to the wine, and you can glue these wine glasses into it's a regular wine glass, you cut the stem off. But I show the whole thing in that article. And it not only teaches contouring, but you can use that for all kinds of other things, making templates from a contour gauge and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I find the wine tasting takes a lot of practice. So the broad base on the glasses, I think, is very important.
There's a science to the whole thing. In fact, I wrote a whole paragraph on the wine glasses, but God, it goes back to before Christ. Wine glasses were made out of leather and wood and all kinds of things. It's quite an art. And when you hear people talk about it, you know, drinking wine with a straw is not kosher. You just don't do that sort of thing. These guys that are connoisseurs, they swirl it around, and you swirl it just right, and that's the shape of that globe. The shape of the globe lets you swirl it so that it aerates the wine, and you taste it differently. And there's a whole science to the grapes and how you do it, and how old it is, and where it comes from, and it's really quite a. I don't know, they make part of that up or whatever, but it sounds good to me.
How much of the stem do you leave on?
Very little, about a quarter of an inch probably.
And you just drill out a center to seed it?
I drill the center out all the way down, and that gives me my depth. And then my template actually has a little tit on the end that it fits down in there. So I know when that template is seated, I can see where I have to take off or what happens to happen. But this actually fits. When you're all done, you take the template out and put the glass in, and it actually seats in there.
What do you use for glue to glue that in, the glass in?
I use a little EC 6000.
Okay, I was wondering if that's what you use, yeah.
Yeah. Epoxy and that sort of thing don't work too well because of the different expansions. But
Right.
also, you see the way it's glued up and the precision of the base. If that's off a little bit, you see one of these walnut corners much bigger than the other one. So it's all shown how to do it. It's not that hard.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah.
It gets harder the more wine you drink, though.
Yeah, the second bottle things look better.
Very nice.
All right.
Oh, this is another one I've always wanted to make. This has been written up, and this will be in American Woodturner one of these days. But this is in what did I call it? A cube,
Infinity.
Infinity cube. Why can't you? Infinity cube. Usually, you see these made in square tubing, and they're welded or that sort of thing. It's very precision. I drew this whole thing up and spent an afternoon measuring and making out a material list, and then I see somewhere on one of the websites there's a spreadsheet on the whole thing. You just plug in what you want and how you want it, and it tells you what to make. But anyway, this is from my own. To make it round, is really hard because you have to reference the miters on both ends of these things have got to be dead on 90 degrees and dead on parallel or 90 degrees to each other. And if it's off any, the whole thing is a mess. The splines, this is a poplar turning spindle with a cherry spline in it. So
No wine involved in this one.
no wine on this one. This is
Yeah.
anyway. This is you turn these in a pandemic. These are the kind of things.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'd never think of it.
I was going to say you got too much time on your hands.
Yeah, I do have that. Go.
Very nice,
Sorry.
Jim.
Okay.
No questions? Other than why?
Again, for those that, we got everybody muted, but if you have questions, you just hit the space bar and it will temporarily unmute you so you can ask questions.
Even I'm not too sure why.
Jim, I really like the cherry, the contrast it gives. It's very, very nice. And the joints with what's the real dark wood at each center joint?
Oh, that's a burn line. That's a burn line. You do that on the lathe.
Oh, so that's all one piece. But from
Yeah.
spline to spline, that's a single piece.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, so I can now the need for precision gets even worse because there's no adjustment in the middle.
No.
It's all one massive multi-axis turn.
Yeah. Not yet. Next one, maybe.
Jeff, I've got you unmuted because you're up next.
Oh boy. This I made for my daughter-in-law. She said, I need something to hold the Keurig cups and the sweet and low and the swizzle sticks and whatnot. And I need it to fit on my kitchen counter under the cabinets. So that thing sits about 12 inches tall because it's 16 inches to the cabinets. That gives you some room to reach into the top. The 3 discs are, I want to say 12, 11, and 10 inches. Those are cherry. The uprights are maple, and I laminated the dish at the top, mounted the whole thing onto a Lazy Susan, and finished it with, I want to say it was 1 coat of Seal-A-Cell.
So are those discs, is that turned, or did you turn a rim and stick it around a disc, or is that all one piece? Is each one of those one piece?
One of those is one piece. I don't know whether I'd call it a really shallow bowl or a high rim platter, but that's 3 pieces of cherry, 12-inch stock, turned down, and then drilled out in the middle a little bit while it was on the lathe, and then matched the maple upright to flare on that to fit solid in the little holes I cut in the platters.
Jeff, I think those are technically considered cake pan turnings.
I ain't gonna argue.
The challenge is getting them flat, because I'm sure if they're just a little bit off, it'll be visible.
Getting them flat proved to be quite a challenge. Getting the holes bored in and getting that flat in the bottom to put the maple uprights in was quite a challenge. It sounded like it was going to be an easy one, and it took weeks to get it right, but it's the first commission I've ever been offered, and it came out okay, and I got exactly 0 for it, which is as much as I ever get for anything I turn, so I'm happy.
I'm just trying to figure out where you're going to put the chocolate pump. Sorry.
It does kind of look like a chocolate fountain, doesn't it?
And again,
That's my first reaction.
my oldest used a Keurig also until Jill and I started to go visit regularly, and they finally figured out with 4 coffee drinkers, that Keurig just doesn't get the job done in the morning. It's way too slow. So he bought a genuine coffee maker, an honest to God Mr. Coffee, and I turned him that coffee scoop out of some marblewood I had on hand. So one scoop makes 2 cups. It's an end grain turning for the bowl, straight up spindle turning on the handle, glued together and finished with 2 coats of Johnson's paste wax.
Very nice.
Nice.
Hey, on the previous one, what kind of sanding jig or whatever did you use to get them flat?
Basically, I used a scraper and real careful with a scraper and putting the ruler on it to find the high spots to get it as flat as it needed to be, and then kiss sanded the whole business.
Okay.
So
Luckily, Keurigs don't roll, so.
Keurigs don't roll, and yeah.
What was the use for that top bowl? What goes in there?
Bags of Sweet and Low and swizzle sticks. And bags of sugar and whatever else. She said, I need it to hold a bunch of Keurig cups and the rest of the stuff we have out for drinking coffee.
Well, Jeff, since it's a Keurig thing, can we expect to see it in Bath, Bed and Beyond soon?
Don't hold your breath.
Yeah.
I like the bowl. I like that cup thing on top. It looks pretty cool.
That I want to say was, what was that? Maybe walnut and holly and some laminate.
Now, Jim, could you use that for drinking wine?
It just comes off, right?
No. It's all glued up, but you know, if you were to fill that top cup with wine, I guarantee you I could pick it up and drink it.
Well, I was actually thinking that if you made that a glass globe, it would be easier to see what you're pulling out of it. Like you put one of Jim's wine glasses in the top there instead of making it solid.
I'll send you the article.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Why is it
All I
motorized?
gotta say is it's good none of us have to drive home.
That's right. I'll drink to that.
All right.
I'll drink to that.
All right. Next one, Norm.
Next one's me. So I don't know who some of you were around long enough to remember, but it was about 7 years ago that we, a bunch of us went and harvested this massive 160-year-old pecan tree in Carriage. And we turned I've got a bunch of these crotch pieces and we turned platters. And this one I brought, who was it that we brought up to talk about how to solve cracks?
The guy from Wilmington, Dennis.
Yeah.
Dennis.
Right.
Dennis.
Belcher, I think.
Yeah, Dennis Belcher. Yep.
And I finally settled on resin as the way to go. And it's just a clear resin. It's pretty clear. It's not crystal clear. Here, let's see if you can see. It's pretty good, but it's not crystal clear. But it's just such a massive piece. And that curl figure is just divine. It sat there drying without barely moving for many years in my shop. And, you know, with that kind of a fissure in it, you really think long and hard about strapping that on the lathe.
Yeah.
But it just, I love the wood. As I said, I had to sacrifice some of the diameter to get to near thickness. But when I got it down to about 1/4 inch, I said that's good enough. And even though on the flip side, it's a little closer to 3/8 because there was that much variance in the crotch piece movement. But I sanded it so you can't detect it with your fingers. But if you were to spin it around, you'd see the difference in edges. But I was just so happy. Steve let me use his lathe because the only way I could get that foot back was to put it on a lathe larger than my 16-inch Nova, which I can turn bigger, but not between head and tailstock. So Steve let me use his shop, and we pinned it between centers, and I was able to save the foot. And as you can see, that defect went right through the foot.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting challenge.
these two different pieces, top and bottom?
No, it's all the same piece, just different views.
Is that a crotch with the feathering there? Because it looks great on both the bottom and the top.
Yes. Well, it was the crotch piece, so that was actually a bark inclusion.
Yeah.
And that ripple figure is just gorgeous, but again, it was dangerous. If you ever turned Pecan though, it just, once it dries, it is rock solid. So I was not that worried about it.
It's like turning cast iron.
Yeah.
Well, it looks great.
No, that turned out really well. Must have been that robust lathe.
Must have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the diameter roughly?
16 and a half. It was a little more, but had to give some up.
Well, and you put two wood turners together with a piece like that, trying to figure out when Norm was over. So we stood and looked at that for a little while before we actually Norm tried to turn it, but
well, we couldn't mount it. Like you had a what's the flat disc sander on a grinding wheel?
Angle grinder, yeah.
Angle grinder, so I could get down a surface so we could remount it without it sitting cockeyed.
And then we stood back when he turned it on.
Yeah, well, we started it real slow, but it was between senders. That part wasn't too scary.
Yeah. No, that turned out well.
No, thank you.
Is the of those two pictures, which one is more like the natural color? The bottom
lower
lower one?
color.
Okay.
Here, I've got it lit here. See if you can see it.
Yeah.
I always forget the camera's opposite. So yeah, that was shot outside because my photo setup isn't big enough for a 16-inch piece.
Yeah.
Right. This is I rough turned this a long time ago too, and normally I don't like dog bowls or really shallow things, but I was able to get a form I liked, and I really like the profile, which is why I threw that photo in, because you can't see it from the top or the bottom. But I tend to like a closed form bowl more than the open form. They say it says a lot about your personality.
It's perfect. It's perfect for my ball in a bowl game.
Yes. Oh, your ball in a bowl game, Bob, huh? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I like
the rim surface actually dipped in just slightly, but you can't quite see it in the photograph.
Yeah, that actually works well with the grain on that. I think that allows you to have that flat bottom like that. The way the figure on that ambrosia just kind of leads your eye right across it.
Yeah, on the inside it is curved. It doesn't go flat too soon.
Right.
And I've got some sanding scratches, so I haven't put my logo on the bottom yet because I may want to try and vacuum chuck mount it to get rid of some fine sanding scratches. They'll be the death of me.
Yeah.
Let's see who we got now. Bob, it's you. You are muted. Unmute, Bob.
This is a piece of mesquite, roughly 12 inches by 2. Sitting on my shelf for many years also. And a big area of it was put back together again using finely ground coffee and CA glue. And then it's basically tung oil and Renaissance wax as a finish. It actually turned out pretty nice.
Yeah, 12 inches for mesquite. That's a good sized tree.
It is, yeah.
Normally hard to find mesquite.
Vine or bush?
I have no idea. Somebody gave it to me years ago.
I just roll and they're in different colors.
Beautiful figure.
Yeah, that's he's got the sap. Is that sapwood on the top there?
Beats me.
Okay. All right, I'll stop asking the technical questions, Bob. That's nicely done.
Yeah.
Next one.
Okay, I've done a bunch of these working with Mark Baker, just using interesting figured pieces of wood. Most of these are like 1/2 an inch thick, and we do the burns on them and then cut them to fit whatever works with the burns. And some of them have been filled with this metallic resin and then sanded and then lacquered. And the bases on these two are spalted maple. But
I have a suggestion, Bob. I like these. I know you did some of these last month.
yeah,
It's
I
interesting
mean,
to me
they're
that
basically just display pieces, something you look at, but they're
you
kind
cut
of
them
fun
after
to do.
you cut them after the burn, which is interesting.
Yeah,
Have you considered cutting them first and then burning them? Because then the burn will wrap around the edge sometime.
hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, it'd be harder to hold the resin in, but if you have but
Well, afterward, yeah, you're right, for the resin side. But he doesn't resin them all.
And
Yeah, you
well,
can take
I think they're coming up here, but I've also done a couple which we retained the bark. They're natural edge versions.
Yeah, we were worried we were light, so a number of us submitted multiple photos, and Bob's one of them. So everyone has their 2 here, and if we have time, we'll go to the extras, but they're in the gallery.
okay.
Do you seal your wood before you put the glue in there?
Yeah, actually, they were sprayed with lacquer first, and then the metallic resin went in, and then we sanded it down to flush, and then lacquered again.
You find with if you don't do that with some of these resins, particularly the thinner viscosity ones, they will bleed into, because you have some end grain there, and it bleeds on it. So I use sanding seal when I do stuff like that. But yeah, you have to. If not, you'll end up with stains on it.
Thank you.
That's nice.
Mr. Edmiston, are you here?
I am here. This is a little wine cask that Jim can use to pour his wine into his wine glasses.
It's too little.
And if you drink too many wines, you got thing to put your lips over so you don't spill the wine down the front of your shirt.
It's got a wormhole.
I thought that's where you put the straw.
Yeah, well, you can do that too. You use your imagination, right? I've just been playing around more with the multi-axis turnings, and I like these little pods, as they refer to them as. And this was just one out of some white oak that came out of my yard last year, and very simple finish on it. I think, what did I do? Just seal coat, and then it's got the a Danish oil finish on it.
So it's white oak.
Yeah, it's white oak, came out of my yard. I had a tree come down.
Are they hollow?
Sorry?
Are they hollow?
Yes. Yes.
That's a small hole at the top. How did you?
I knew somebody was going to ask that. They're not hollowed through that hole.
He puts a straw in there, Stefan, and he sucks the wood out.
Suck it all out. Actually, if you look at I don't know whether you can see it. Maybe if I hold it up here, you can see the 2 stripes at the base.
Yeah.
What you do is you hollow from the bottom. You actually take the bottom piece out, hollow from the bottom. You drill a hole in the top. That's where that hole in the top comes from, to meet the inside that you've hollowed. And then you put it on your secondary axis, and you turn it around that hole.
Oh.
So that's how that's accomplished. So it's a lot easier than trying to get a turning tool through that tiny little hole.
Well, especially when it's spinning on an oblique axis. Then
Yeah, exactly.
a little trickery here.
Yeah.
And I think drinking a good bit of wine out of that, it would really confuse you. So
Actually, that might be better since it's oak. It might be better if you put whiskey in it.
Yeah.
The one thing that catches my eye is the foot feels a little bit too big in diameter.
Yeah, I agree with you. That was, I haven't made any with that pedestal base on it, and I was just kind of playing around with it, and I agree with you. When I got it off the lathe, it looked a little bit out of proportion.
Doesn't that kind of depend on how much wine you've been drinking as to how big a base you need to hang on to those things?
Well, yeah, you're right, Jeff.
I guess next time we have a gallery, we should have a theme, because and we'll let Jim start off with it, and every joke and comment has to be related to the theme.
I was going to say, you could also part off that bottom again as it started out and turn it down in diameter a little bit and put it back on again.
Depends if you glued it.
Doesn't matter.
No, it's
Part
not
it off
glued.
whether it's glued on or not.
It's not good. Actually, you put that in a vacuum chuck and probably do just that. You could probably turn it down a little bit. But anyway.
You know, I
That's
might
right.
add to that piece to sand the base oval to kind of match the top.
Oh, there's an idea.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah.
That way
That
you
would
can
be pretty easy to do.
You wouldn't have to put it back in the lathe then.
No.
Just oval it in the direction of the slant on the top to accent that.
Well, stay
No,
tuned. You
power
may
sand.
see this again.
Version 3 next month.
Yeah, version 3.
yeah, one thing I'm definitely discovering or deciding after this is that instead of going back to NC State's Craft Center, I think our new meetings when COVID is gone and everything should probably start at a bar.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Bob, this one.
This is just a continuation of these multi-axis pods. This was a piece of cherry that I had. It's a little bit larger than the other one. And this one was just finished with the Beal buff system.
Is that end grain on the top?
Yes.
Very pretty.
You start out with these green, and then just turn them once, or
Let's see, this one, both of these came out of my yard. I had a cherry tree in the front yard that came down, and I saved some logs that I actually rough turned them, and they just sat in a box in my shop for 2 years. And as dry as they were, I was able, or as wet as they were, I was still able to turn them, and I just did them all in one time, so I didn't have to come back and worry about them deforming and whatnot. The white oak is the one that's really bad because it just, I've had a couple of bowls I've made out of that, and it's not as dry yet. And boy, you leave that overnight and you got a whole different vessel.
right? Yeah, even end grain white oak will do that.
Yeah. Actually, I've used on the white oak, I've used some of that desiccant that Norm introduced me to, and that dries it out pretty quickly.
On the inside?
Yeah. So.
I
I was
really
looking
do
at the
like.
growth rings. The growth rings on there, is the pith included in that?
Yeah, pith's in there, right? It's actually, well, you can't see.
Okay.
You went mute, Bob.
Sorry?
You went mute for a minute, I think.
Yeah,
I did, I turned it off.
All right, very nice. Looking forward to seeing the version 3, the other one.
Bob, on both of those, I really like the idea of the hollow form from underneath and the off-center axis that is a really good combination. I really like those.
Give it a try. It's a lot of fun and get you introduced to multi-axis if you haven't done any of that. And they're pretty simple to do.
All right, good.
Yep. So this is another collaborative project I did with my sister. So I made this box. My wife has a friend that just turned 60 and she wanted to give her something. So I made this box for her. I think it's Bradford pear. And then that middle peg in it is cherry, actually, for it's like a ring holder. And she wanted some decoration. I sent it to my sister, and she put this dogwood limbs on it, and the dogwood flowers, and it turned out, I think, really nice. And I also just glued a gemstone on the top of it for a handle on the top. So turned out quite nice.
Yeah.
How big is it, Ted?
Oh, it's I think 5.5 inches bigger round and about 3 inches maybe tall.
2.5. You said.
2.5. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Norm.
Well, your description. I didn't measure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't remember.
Hey, Ted, are the black lines on the top that are sort of parallel, were they part of the wood, or did she add that?
Yeah, no, those are part of the wood, and then she integrated. If you look across on the just right of that gemstone, there's like a twig goes through it. So she made it look kind of like a branch coming out of a tree there, you know. And it's actually it's part of the bark inclusion on it actually that I kept on the top of the lid. So it turned out really cool.
That is beautiful.
I'm jealous that you have a sister that can do that.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think it's fair, really.
The only
Yeah,
problem
you
is
need to
she
stick with her on that
she lives
because
in Michigan. It's the only problem. So I got to send everything to her, and she has to send it back. So that's the only downfall. But
well, she obviously needs to move because you two need to work together.
yeah, she wants me to move there. She keeps bugging me.
To Michigan? No.
Can you rent her by the hour?
This time of the year, it's you know, not too bad, but winter time it gets kind of long up there.
Yeah.
And
That's right. Talk to her in winter about moving, not now.
Tell her it's gorgeous, but just for 4 weeks.
Yeah, and if you go up there this time of year, they got mosquitoes bigger than crows.
yes, and lots of them.
Is there a purpose for the center cone?
Yeah, it's for a ring holder.
Ah, right. It's fine. I keep looking at it and I think of it as being bigger than 5 inches. It looks like it's bigger.
Yeah, yeah. It's meant to, you know, put on your, you know, bathroom counter or whatever type thing where you can put your jewelry and stuff in it. You know, take off
Well,
your jewelry.
tell your sister we once again are really thrilled with her work, and you did okay too, Ted. But
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks.
I noticed you didn't
Yeah,
credit her.
my contribution there is the smallest part. Believe me.
you created the canvas. Well, and you know, quite honestly, Ted, is if it wasn't finished well, then it would get lost. You know, the palette would be.
Yeah.
But no, that's an excellent collaboration that you guys are doing.
Just a note to others, if you were the one that has to furnish the jewelry, it's not real wise to make these real deep.
One
Good
per
point,
piece.
yeah.
This one here is my version of a wine glass, Jim. So,
Oh,
you
I
hold
quit.
this, you put one hand on each side instead of the stem, and that's a little bit thicker wood on the wings, so it insulates it from getting warming up the wine on you, and then it fits right on your cheeks. You know, you just pull it up to your face and tip it up. And,
Sounds good to me.
I don't think I have ever drunk that much wine. In fact, I think if I did, it would be after the fact that I needed it.
I'm going last next time.
It's actually not that big. It's like 5.5 inches tall and 5.5 inches wide. But this is turned. It's a multi-axis turn, and it's made out of popple wood, I believe, and it's either popple or sweet gum. I can't remember which it is that I made it out of, but
I'm gonna guess sweet gum because that grain does not look like poplar to me.
yeah,
Anybody?
it could be.
Hey,
It's
Ted, I've
funny.
never seen that shape before. That's very innovative.
Yeah, I saw a shape similar to this on Pinterest, and I tried to find out more about it and couldn't. So finally, I decided, well, I'm gonna take a stab at it and see if I can figure out how to do this. So it's a multi-axe turn, and you turn the centerpiece, you know, on the left side of it, you know, facing you like that first, and it's off-centered. So you're turning just that part of it. So it's a little bit, you know, wobbly, you know, or vibrates on you. So you only can go so fast. So it's a bit of a challenge because that's end grained also. So you're trying to prevent tear out, you know, in it. And the wood, it was all an experiment, you know, the wood is soft. I would do it with a harder wood the next time because it'd be easier to prevent the tear out on it. But anyways, you turn that out first.
Is that the first axis that I just drew in there?
Yeah, that's right. That's the first axis. And you turn it till you're happy with that shape. And then you turn it, you know, 90 degrees and turn, yeah, as he's pointing out there, where the center hole is there. I plug it in there, and then on the other end, and I turn a spigot, you know, on the end of it, a tenon on the end of it, the opposite end of the hole, of course, and then mount on the tenon and hollow it out. And you have to be really careful hollowing it because you don't want to come through that side piece of it, you know, and you can't get up in those wings. So those are solid up in the wings part there. So it was a fun project. And actually I've done 3 of them. And now, and I'm going to go back and do some more of them since I get some other stuff finished up. But it's really a fun project, and I'm going to try experimenting, you know, a little bit variations of this. And but I was pretty happy with this one.
How big is it?
It's
5.5.
5.5 by 5.5 inches, 5.5 high up to the end of the wings. And it probably swoops down about maybe 1.5 inches or something like that. Oh, well, I got it right in front of me here.
I'd love to see it in
Make
natural
a great
wood
demo
so
product.
that you could get a feel for how the grain interacts with the form. I'm kind of missing that with the color.
Yeah, let me turn my light on here. You can see a little better maybe. So that's a piece. And so there you can see, you know, it's about 1.5 inches across, you know, that swoop in it like that. And it looks really good in the sunlight. It really has some depth to it. And my son calls it the earth. He that's what he sees when he sees it. You spin it around and it looks like different continents and the oceans and the green, you know, forest you would see in a continent and all that. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
How'd you stain it?
It's with dye. I dyed yellow first and kind of spot dye it in those different places. Then I used 2 different colors of blue and then merge those. You know, I merge the dyes. You know, you just run it into the other one until you smooth it out to where you're liking it, and you get to where you get the green. The blue gets in there with the yellow, and then it turns pieces of it more green. And yeah, you just work on it, you know, until you're happy with you know, the different mixture of the dyes. But sometimes I start with in this case like this, I start with the light color first, and then I actually did the darkest blue second, and then I used the middle blue third and merged the 2 between the dark blue and the yellow.
I really like the natural part of it there. And I like your son's vision of it too. Just it all works together. Very, very nice.
Thank you. I did a video of it, but we were just doing the photos here. But we get time or some other time I can show you the video. It's pretty cool to see it spin around because it really refracts the light on it.
Good project demo.
Nicely done. Nicely done, Ted. That looks very nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey,
All
you
right.
guys, while we have Ted on here, do you think we could volunteer to go in and help him sweep out, shovel out his shop? It looks like his shavings have gotten way too deep.
I just had somebody come over. I got a person now that wants all my shavings, and she's using it for ceramics. She builds a fire. And
Very key. Yeah.
yeah, and puts it in there. So I'm interested to see her work out of it when she gets done. But I got a source now for my not a source, but
Disposal option there.
a feed.
I have a neighbor who takes them for his chicken coop. So
I got a neighbor that uses them in his burn pile.
no. This is mine. This is 12, about 12 inches in diameter. It's 4 chunks of big leaf maple burl that have been stabilized and then cast into the acrylic. And it's a platter, so it does have a foot on it. You can see a little bit of it. One of the challenges in doing stuff like this, if you're making it into platters, is that you have to be really careful with your foot that there's no sharp transitions, because the piece is essentially transparent. So if you're not careful with the way you do that, you end up with, you can see the foot through the piece, and you can see a little bit. I mean, this is backlit to try to get the effect of the pearl in there, but you need to make very subtle transitions when you're creating the foot on something that you can see through like this. So I have a whole bunch of pieces now ready to start. I was going to do a series of these with different colors and different amounts of pearl. And I think I've mentioned before, the way you get the pearl to do that effect is you have to, so this is the Lumelite. It's all cast in the bottom of it's all set up in the bottom of the pressure vessel. You pour the base color in, and then you watch the temperature with a infrared thermometer that you just point at it, pull the trigger. And when it gets up to 95 degrees or so, it gets enough viscosity that you can pour the pearl in, and it doesn't mix, that it'll retain, it'll retain some separation on it. And I don't touch it. I don't stick a stick in it and move it around or anything. I pour it in what I want to do. And then you have about.
Is that a liquid, Steve, of the pearling?
Yeah, it's the same Lumelite. It's just got white pearl powder in it.
Okay.
And so it has no dye in it. It's just, so, I have the blue base color in there that's dyed and poured in. And then I just take a couple ounces when I mix up, before I put the dye in the big container, I take 3 or 4 ounces out, put it in a cup, and just mix the pearl powder into it.
Oh.
And then, but you have to, if you just pour it in at the same time, it'll be, it just mixes in, and so you don't get any separation. So the key is to let it start to set. And once it hits 95 degrees, you only have 12 minutes total to do this. That's the open time for Lumelite. So it's about 6 or 7 minutes after mixing. So it's probably 10 minutes into the process where it's at 95 degrees. And then you have about 90 seconds to get that thing buttoned up and under pressure. So that's why you have to do it while it's in the pressure vessel. In order to, it has to be sitting in there ready to go, because you don't want to be handling this or trying to rush through it, or you'll end up dropping it. So
I see there's like darker streaks in there too. Is that dye?
that's just the way it's just the light's reflecting off the pearl. It's pretty homogeneous. The blue is pretty homogeneous, but the pearl creates shadows. And then, again, that's lit from the back. Actually, it's lit from the back and a reflector in the front. So,
okay.
This is John Vaith teaching me how to do photography. So, anyway, that's what you're seeing. The dark spots are just the shadows from the pearl, because the pearl's solid. It's not translucent. It's actually a powder that's in there. So, all right.
Nice.
Next one. And this is about 14-inch burl that I picked up out of Mike Smith's junk pile. It was real punky. You can see all the spalting in it. You could not turn this without stabilizing it. So this is the outside piece. I actually cored this and made 3 bowls from it. And this was too big to fit into my vacuum chamber, so I actually brushed the cactus juice on it several times and got it saturated, and then baked it to set the resin in that, because it was too big to fit into my the cores I took from the inside were small enough to fit into the vacuum chamber for the cactus juice, but this one was not, so I had to. It's the first time I've ever done this, but it's not as all the way through as when you use the vacuum chamber, but it's a thin enough wall that it worked out okay. And the wood was so punky that it worked out okay to just brush it on. And then but in real life, this has some holes in it, and yeah, there's but it did finish smooth. It has kind of a gloss finish on it, so turned out pretty well. And then
What's the size of it again?
it's about 14 inches
Okay.
by about 6 inches tall.
How did the others come out? You said you cored this. How did the others come out?
They turned out well, because and actually they were easier to do because I was able to put them in the vacuum chamber. So what I've learned with stabilizing is you don't want to stabilize the whole blank because you can't afford the resin. So I get them pretty close to final shape before I stabilize it. It uses a lot less resin, but I actually sold all 3 of the cores from this. Actually, I sold them as a set. They didn't want this big one, or they didn't want to pay for the big one. So any question? Those are my 2.
How much wine did you get your wife before you put this in the oven?
I don't put anything in the kitchen oven. I have a separate oven that I use for stabilizing. I learned that, and a separate microwave. So I learned that lesson a long time ago. No, you do not want to put cactus juice in your house oven. I guarantee you that will be a disaster. You'll be buying a new stove because it leaches out as you bake it. It'll be all over the bottom of your oven, and plus it smells. I do this outside because it does give off vapors. I just put it under the overhang of my garage in the back, and I have an oven that I just carry outside and do it in that.
We're working on 41 years of marriage, and that's only because the first time I brewed a dark beer and had to boil the hops inside, my wife kicked me out, and I went outside.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. No, it's just even from a safety standpoint, you just don't want to do it in the house.
I feel your pain.
Yeah. All right, Ray.
All right, this is the second cigar case I've done. My grandson and I, before he left for the Army, had been up at the Formula One race in Montreal, and the last few years have managed to hit the same stand spot with a bunch of French Canadians that are locals up there, and they've been so overly generous with their beer and cigars when we've been up there that I wanted to make them some cigar cases for the next time we went out, which would have been this time, but it got canceled. And I ordered kits. And when the kits came in, I was a little, I don't know, they looked more like metal cigar cases with a little wood wrapped around them. And it wasn't really what I wanted or what I had in mind. So the first one I made for Nick, is my grandson's name, at Christmas, was inspired by Norman. When he did, there was either tricks or or jigs and tips or whatever we did. And he was talking about the hand pepper mills that, you know, he was buying long before they were selling kits and stuff for those, and using something that he found. So I made my way over to JR Cigar and started looking for cigars that were in maybe a metal tube that I could use as a liner. And I found really only one that works well. There's a lot of cigars that are sold in metal tubes, but most of them have a very small screw top on the end. And I wasn't sure that I could bore straight and narrow that long for a full length cigar and have the cap just be at the very tip. And then I found that there's a Monte Cristo Churchill that is sold in a metal tube that has about the same dimensions as this, top to bottom, and it's a slip press fit, the metal tube. So the first one I made for my Christmas was Paduke, and I inserted the metal tube, which is a 1 inch. It's actually 25 millimeters, but it was just short of an inch, the bore, to get that tube in the wood, which then of course left the wood a little thicker. And I had some squared off bottoms because I had it more envisioned of it sitting on a desk, standing up, and he liked it, and he called, and he's been stuck up in Fort Drum now for a while because of this COVID thing. And he said, hey, when you make another cigar case for me, can you make it small enough that they've got all these Velcro doodads that are all over their uniforms and stuff. And he said, I can Velcro my cigar case onto my shoulder for when we're on maneuvers. So that was the inspiration for this, is not to use the liner so I could get the cigar case smaller. So the outside diameter is 1 inch, and the inside diameter is 7/8. And I turned it like a traditional box. So that left me 1/8 to put the slip over part, and it actually turned out pretty well. So then it was sanded pretty fine down to 400, I think, and probably I think after that it was friction polish, Mylan's friction polish. So when I actually have it with me. It hasn't gone up in his UPS care package that's going out in a couple days. And I was pretty pleased with the way it came out. It's very light, and it's ambrosia maple. And it's just a piece of scrap laying around, and I like the way it turned out. So it takes a Churchill. So when I found out from the lady at JR Cigar, who was smoking a cigar, by the way, when I was in there, that the Churchill is a size and on a cigar, that's a certain size, but there's no standard in the industry for a Churchill size. But the Monte Cristo is the largest Churchill of all of the Churchill size cigars. So it'll take any Churchill size cigar inside the liner. And then you can see that actually the cigar goes up with it. It's laying there on the counter. And there's enough room for that to slide in there in its cellophane package.
So what is the size?
I'm sorry?
What is that bore size?
7/8.
Gotcha.
7/8, 1/8 on the outside. I mean, 1 inch on the outside.
What's the advantage of putting a liner in? Is it to keep them fresher, or why would you even have to do that?
I don't think you do. It's just when I looked at the kit.
Okay.
The kit is basically built around a liner.
Right. Okay. Got it.
So it was like, but it was Norman, like I said, when he was showing some of the things that he makes for his craft shows and stuff, it was like, well, why go out and spend $20 on a kit? Maybe there's another way around that. So that was the first, iteration was I found, oh, here's a cigar case. It splits 1/3, 2/3. It's fairly thin metal, but the OD on it is almost a full inch.
Right.
So you end up with a
It pays
pretty.
to be cheap.
What's that?
It pays to be cheap.
Yeah. Well, for $15, which is the cost of the cigar, I got a free liner. So, but then I wanted to make it smaller, and there wasn't another cigar sold in a liner. So this was, could I go ahead and do that? The other thing that I found is that by making it as a box, I was able to get the top and the bottom to line up better.
Right.
Like when I had to board the top and board the bottom to put the liners in. And then when I put them back together, the bore was off just enough that you spend a lot of time trying to get everything back in round. And also to get the joint to match right. I didn't actually push it all the way down. It almost becomes invisible on the joint on the box.
So one of the things you may want to consider, the drilling, I imagine, is can get challenging on that. But they make, Rudy Lopez, when he demonstrated, showed us these drill bits that for these larger diameters that have a Morse taper on them. So they go right into your tailstock, and I think Norm has one. I have one. I have a 1-inch one that I use for my pepper mills, but it is a rock steady drill bit. I mean, it is solid, and you get no wander at all on this thing. I mean, it drills straight into there. So if you ever need something to drill that deep, it's a really good way to do it.
Actually, you reminded me that is pretty much how I did it. I used a 5/8 drill with the Morse taper. And then before I set that in there, I took the 7/8 Forstner and just started the hole down about a 1/4 of an inch. Then I went out and bored it all the way to depth with that drill, with the solid drill, and then went back with the Forstner and just cleaned it up.
Right.
And used that. It guided itself after that because the original
right.
Hole was made. And I've done a lot of deeper boring things with vases and things. That's kind of a technique. I don't know if anybody taught it, but that's how I picked it up. Is I'll start the hole with the Forstner bit, then bore all the way down with the solid regular drill, and only leave myself a little bit to clean up with the Forstner bit, and it makes a very nice straight bore hole that way. So we're pretty pleased with that. And I have to apologize for last month. I put my item in the gallery, and at the last minute, one of my granddaughter's volleyball team called a practice that had been canceled because of rain, and I was the last person they could possibly find. So I didn't make it, but I do have that one here. I don't know if anybody looked at that from.
Yeah, we were wondering.
Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with this one too. It's got 15-degree cuts on both sides, and then it's turned this way and that way. And this was a piece of mahogany that was a scrap from up at Klingspor's. Klingspor gets these, they're what's left over after they cut out a Queen Anne's leg. So there's just a bunch of scrap that they sell by $2 a pound or something for mahogany. So that was that piece. And so I apologize I didn't make the meeting last time, but my wife absolutely loves this. There's one of these things that you're kind of messing with it, and then when it comes out, it's like, wow. I wish I could say I kind of ever had a plan for it, but it was kind of a concept. I knew what I wanted to do, but it just came out pretty good. So
that's nicely done. Yeah, we ended up looking at it.
Yeah, this is the gun drill bit that I got after Rudy's presentation. And this is my last Monte Cristo from Havana. So I'm envious of the cigar tube.
Thank you.
Yep. Ray, do you put a sealer on the inside of that, or is it just the raw wood in there?
No, as a matter of fact, I didn't even do much on the with the slip finish. So the inside is raw. The
Okay.
inside I left. I ended up engraving my name and Nick's name around the
Flip.
inside of the inside where the two pieces come together. So
Wow.
I didn't sign anything on the outside, and it has such a nice fit. I mean, it's a press fit. It's a wood turner's fit, the pop fit.
Yeah.
And I'm afraid to do much of anything to it because if I put something on there, I know it'll screw it up. So it's going to go that way.
Good.
Raymond, I used to use those cigar tubes for model rockets. So maybe another idea is that you can glue 3 pins on the bottom and put one of those solid rocket boosters in it.
He's having a good time shooting enough munitions off over there. So
Yeah.
he's a gun lover.
I
He's in his glory up there at Fort Drum.
Now that's something I hadn't thought of, but I used to do model rockets all the time. And this is a whole new area to explore with turning.
Next time. Moving on. At least there weren't wine jokes.
So, moving on, these would make great stoppers. Turn them upside down and stick them in the bottle. So, I make a lot of cedar Christmas trees for the holidays for family and friends, and I also sell a few. And one lady saw those and asked if I could make some out of an oak log that she had. And I said, yeah, I'll try. And I think they turned out really well. You can see a lot of the grain in there, and a lot of the oak rays. And I left a few slivers of bark where I could. The top one is about 12 inches tall by about 6 inches in diameter, and the short one's about 9.5 and about 5 inches in diameter. And it's sort of spindle turning, although I have to use a bowl gouge to start the undercut or the cove of the branch, and then finish it up with the spindle gouge. Lots of sanding involved.
Is a pith in it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. If you look on the top of it, I didn't show that, but I didn't take a picture of that. But yeah, you can see the pith right in the top. Also, on the shorter one, it was, I don't know whether the wood had gotten wet, but it was really damp. So I did the cardinal sin of putting it in our kitchen microwave. I ran it 23 times at 1 minute, and it lost 6 3/8 ounces. And it did do a little cracking. I was surprised, but
6 3/8 ounces doesn't tell us much. What percentage of that weight did it lose?
about 16.5%.
Gotcha.
It was 2 pounds at 1 3/8 ounces when I started, and I think 2 pounds and a quarter.
Right. And what does your microwave smell like?
Well, it's a whiskey barrel kind of smell, right?
Yeah.
Where it's charred, right?
Ambiance. It gave it some ambiance.
Right. Yeah, but like you, Steve, I'm going to have to get different ovens that I need and take them outside. Yeah.
Either the Goodwill or I just bought mine on sale at Sam's.
Yeah. Okay, this is a piece of mesquite uh, n- not as, it's more of a stable color than what Bob had. Some of the sapwood on the right-hand side of the lower picture. The outside has been finished, but the inside is not. And what I was hoping to get is some feedback, but maybe I've already got it, about with the cracks and the black super glue. I wanted it to just go into the crack and not wood. And it sounds like if you put sanding sealer on it first and then put the super glue on and sand the glue off, and it won't seep into the wood.
Yeah, because what you'll find, Preston, is so those cracks are running along the side grain orientation, but inside the crack, it's end grain. So those are, you know, when if you look at what's going on there, so
you can see the same cracks on the bottom picture too.
Yeah.
I didn't line those up at the same though. Thanks, Norm, for combining those.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you for combining the ones.
Well,
I just had a crazy click that got me out of the gallery. Let me get back. Here we go.
yeah, and the other thing, Preston, if the cracks are really small, the other thing you do is actually put some clear super glue down into the crack. It'll flow into the end grain straws if you need to get in there, and then follow that up. So it won't fill the crack, but if you use the super thin, it will seal it. And then when you put your other finish on, it'll. I find that I can use super glue and then put Seal-A-Cell over it, and you can't tell where the super glue was.
Yeah, well, in the bottom one, it's got the black streaks in it. Some of those streaks are cracks also that I put the black super glue in, the Starbond super glue. And with enough sanding and then with the finish darkens it up, it sort of tends to disguise it, but there's still a lot of sanding that I wouldn't have to do if I put on it to start with, I guess.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to get those completely out. You may want to try even some dye on the inside if they don't, if they still show to you know, try to blend those in.
Okay.
Gentlemen, while we're off on the subject, I have to give my wife allergy shots, so we're using an insulin syringe. I have filled those very carefully, put a little super glue in those, squeeze a little out onto some scrap wood to get a feel for what's going to happen, and use that tiny little needle to fill little bitty cracks and control exactly where that super glue goes. And I find that technique works a whole lot better than trying to hang on to that bottle of super glue and get a tiny drop where you need it.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Words of caution, do wear some kind of disposable glove, because you're going to get a little of that glue on the barrel of the syringe, and then you're not going to let go of it easily. And definitely squeeze a little glue out onto a piece of scrap until you get a feel for how the glue is going to come out of that little tiny needle, and then go after your piece of wood. Those are about 50 cents a piece, maybe 75 cents a piece at Walmart. Buy a bag of 10.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
How much
How
work time?
did your wife do with the super glue injections?
You know, if you drink enough wine, she don't mind.
All right, Terry.
The
Okay.
Botox diffusing.
These are kind of very simple, just playing around on the lathe and spare time projects. I had some shrubs taken down behind my house in Raleigh. There were ligustrum, and I snagged a few pieces of wood. This was the first one I did anything with. It was really odd shaped, so I ended up kind of turning it, making an end grain bowl. It was really kind of slanted like that. The edges were very rough. When I got it turned, I wanted to leave the rough edges. When I got it turned, I didn't like that. So basically, I just sanded it down to have a more or less smooth edge. It's about 5.5 inches in diameter, and the tallest part's about 3.5 inches tall, so it's pretty small.
You turned it green?
I turned it. I turned it after it'd been laying around for about 9 months, and so it was still a little bit green, but I just turned it once. So if you look at the wall thickness, you can see that it actually moved a little bit when I was turning it from the outside to the inside. So the wall thickness is not totally uniform.
Yeah, I've had some experience just doing shrub type things, and boy, they just move so much. It's hard to keep them. Probably because they grow so fast.
A little bit less since it was end grain, but it did move some. So if you look carefully, the walls aren't perfectly uniform.
Right. Okay.
But I kind of like the wood, the way it turned out with the grain and stuff, and you can see the, the pith pattern and stuff in the bottom of the bowl.
Very pretty.
Very pretty grain, and also it didn't crack as it dried.
Well, actually, it did crack a lot. So there are quite a few cracks there that are filled with dust, or dust from the turning and super glue. So, including that long kind of darkish one that goes down.
Yeah.
So those are filled cracks, and across the bottom where the pith is, there's quite a few cracks. Yeah, that's one there, Norm, but the one on the upper left-hand side of the big picture, yeah, that one's the big one. That's a filled crack.
Still looks good. Great. Good job.
Thank you.
Did you turn that, Terry, with your electric trolling motor down there?
Yeah, no, I was in Raleigh for a couple days for a dental appointment, so I had to do something while I was there. So these two projects are things that I did there. So I went to a local sawmill, and when they take the trees and square them up, the guy just throws the slabs into a burn pile. Well, I rescued about a 4-foot piece of wood out of the burn pile that was burnt on the end. So I just played with it and made a little bowl out of the end, because I was interested in the wood. It's very light color. It's not maple, it's not sycamore, it's not pine. I'm not really sure what it is, but it was very light color. So this is the first piece out of that I turned. And of course, when I got it done, I said, no, I have to burn the rest of the rim to make it look somewhat uniform. So that's it.
Happy Holly.
Did you finish it where red wine wouldn't stain it?
Yeah, I put a little wipe on poly on it, so you could probably drink red wine out of it.
What did you burn it with?
I just burned it with my torch. Just one of those butane torches.
It looks like holly with that gray in it.
Yeah, that could well be what it is. I was thinking that when somebody mentioned holly earlier, and it was a pretty big piece of wood, but it doesn't have much. It doesn't have a whole lot of grain feature, but has a little bit.
How dense is it? How heavy is it?
I had a couple hollies taken out of our front yard last year. Oh,
okay.
Torch, is that little handheld type of thing, or a big propane tank?
No, the little handheld thing. The little bottles that you buy at Home Depot or whatever, and put a top on. And if you keep the torch pretty straight with the rim, it burns the rim, and you don't get much torching inside the bowls.
Yeah, I've
And
been
of course,
using one of those quite a bit recently, but the one thing I had to do was this kind with the trigger on it.
yeah,
And-
yeah.
Okay,
The
well,
shell-
what I did was to defeat the trigger so that I could just not have to hold the thing down and pull the trigger at the same time.
Yeah.
X-Acto knife or cardboard cutting knife works really well for that.
Yeah, for something that size, it doesn't take very long. So, that wasn't a problem.
Well, I just
Very,
don't like the idea of having to use like the dexterity of holding down the safety and pulling the trigger every time I wanted to light it. So
Yeah.
by defeating the safety, I'm sorry, Jeff, but it works really well.
You can't talk about that. All right. Nicely done.
very beautiful contrast.
Yeah.
I really, really like that was a good idea to burn the edges. It just gives wonderful contrast.
Oh, thank you. Well, I picked up on the burn that was already there and said, it was kind of obvious to me after I looked at it that I needed to burn the rest of it.
All right. Nicely done, Terry. Jim?
Yeah, just was having a little bit of fun with some maple. You can see on the cap, it got pretty badly stained with some red wine before I got the finish on it. There is some figure to it. One of the questions that I've got, I kind of did it as a bit of contrast, was to leave the lines on the finial or the pull top very crisp instead of curved, just to have a contrast with the main body. Just would appreciate comment on that, whether that's a adder or a detractor.
I like it.
No, I think that's
We have to invest. We all have to chip in and buy Jim a ruler, because apparently he can only tell the size of something using a battery.
Well, those go in the headlight or headlamp that I use to see inside these things. So I'm just trying to recycle the batteries.
So that's
And there was red
batteries
wine
high and
involved,
about one
remember?
battery wide.
I like the angularity on the top, but I think it's big for the piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was more my feeling, was just that it was a little bit too big. So appreciate that.
yeah, probably half that size.
What was the stain?
It's actually Balin's blood red stain. Put it on and then actually had to sand it back to keep the top from being almost black from the stain. It's very dark, and the light streaks that you can see in the top are actually a little bit of fiddleback in the maple.
You may want to try using a 50-50 dilution of sanding sealer before you put the dye on, just to see whether, a lot of times that will keep the intensity of those dyes from getting quite so dark.
Right. Okay. Good idea.
Go for that, the little cap on the lid, maybe make that one battery diameter instead of two.
Ah, okay. There we go.
I was also going to say, you might want to try, instead of that red dye, a little Cabernet would probably give you a better color.
All right, guys, come on. Let's move on.
We talking about wood coming out of the backyard. This was a piece of maple tree that I had to have taken down. My daughter's into mushrooms, and so I thought I'd make her a little mushroom box out of it. Still working on part of the bottom, so it's mostly finished, but not entirely. but figured I needed to save part of that tree. Things had a bad life. It's had half the tree was blown down in a storm 2 or 3 years ago, and then this past fall it got hit by lightning and finished taking it out. So, but its memory lives on.
Right.
But it just a nice little box. It's about 3 inches across and about 2.5 high. Does have a wood turner's pop on fitting the top, taking the top off.
Pretty wide base mushroom.
Well, if it wasn't kind of wide, you wouldn't have much of a box.
I know. I'm just joking. All right.
My daughter really likes it, and that is
We
a
need wine.
beautiful piece.
All right. Good
That
morning.
brings to the end of the official gallery where everyone had 2 pieces. A few of us stuck in a couple of shots that you'll find in the gallery because we were a little worried we'd come up short. Clearly we didn't. So we're not gonna, I mean, if anyone has questions on these, I'll put them on screen for a minute, but let's not.
Yeah, let's move on. All right. Well, Norm's running through those. I appreciate everybody's participation tonight. This is really a good forum. A lot of good commentary, and even the wine jokes for the first hour were pretty funny.
It told me when to move to the next photo. It was perfect.
Jim Duxbury, you're going last next time because see what you started.
Yeah, you got it. Okay.
All right. So, Norm, you want to do the
What?
do your random number generator here for our prizes?
Give me a moment. Gotta go back.
So what we're going to do is Norm's going to call out some names, and if you're here, just say you're here. Make sure you take yourself off mute. If we don't hear from you, we'll just go to the next one. And we have 2 prizes, two wood boxes with the gift certificate. So
Okay, we ready?
yep.
1, 2, 3, stop. Glenn is not here, is he?
I haven't seen him.
1, 2, 3, stop. Steve, not here. 1, 2, 3, stop. John Frampton, not here.
Damn, dismissed.
1, 2, 3, stop. Ted.
Hey,
Way to go, Ted.
all right.
All right, Ted, you get one of them. All right, one more.
1, 2, 3, stop. Richard. Is Dick's here? Isn't he? No, he's not.
Oh,
1, 2, 3, stop. Sorry, was Richard here?
Richard Cook is here.
No, Richard
That
Crawford.
wasn't Richard.
1, 2, 3, stop. No. 1, 2, 3, stop. No. 1, 2, 3, stop. I almost want to tell all these people that they should have been here. Bruce, is Bruce here?
He wasn't he?
Yes, he's here. Bruce.
Unmute. Yeah, I'll unmute him. Bruce, are you still? Won't let me unmute him.
Well, he has to grant it. You requested him. He might have stepped away, but he's technically here, so I think we should give it to him.
Okay.
I see his name and he's still muted.
Yeah.
We asked him to unmute, but
Bruce, if you're on, press your. Yeah, we'll give it. He's showing on, so we will. We'll do this. We'll. So Ted and Bruce. I'm gonna write those down.
like Ted would let you forget.
When are you going to deliver those, Steve?
Delivery.
You can arrange pickup. Friday or Saturday, it would be excellent days for you to, next Friday or Saturday, excellent days to arrange pickup.
Well, I might be coming over to your place next week anyway, so
Okay.
I'll pick it
All
up
right.
then.
All right.
Are they are they at the warehouse now?
They're at the store. They're at the
Storage,
store.
I mean? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So the slots are filling up. I think we had one slot still open Friday, plenty of them for Saturday. If we fill up, we'll add a day. So
Yep.
don't feel bad if you run out of slots to visit for the sale.
And there's lots of wood. So, but okay. All right. Well, that is it for tonight. I thank everybody for participating. The enjoyable evening to share work and the dialogue. For most of these meetings, if anybody's interested, the meetings start at 7, but we usually open up the Zoom chat, the Zoom meeting at about 6:30, and just chat for a half an hour before the meeting starts. So, and that, almost every time we have it open up at least 30 minutes before so you're welcome to join, get your tips and tricks in. The announcement for that will be coming out momentarily, probably next week, and we'll see some of you at the wood sale next Friday and Saturday. Anybody has any questions about any of those things, just drop me a line either directly or through the WGNC email. So, anybody?
Friday is filled, and we've got 3 of the 10 slots Saturday filled.
Okay.
Oh,
And again,
great.
Folks, if we fill up these slots, we will add more. We'll add another day. We'll do this again. I mean, the object of doing this is to get the wood out to you guys. It does us no good sitting there in the storage unit. So if it does fill up, and even if it does fill up, and it may turn out that some people need to drop out, so keep checking back as we get closer to next weekend if the slots get filled up. But if we see this getting filled up, we'll let you know when the next time we're going to do it is. But we will do it. And for those who are coming, just please be prompt, because we have to come out to the gate to let you in. So we'd rather not wait. Have to be standing out there waiting. So it's very helpful if you could just be there on time. All right. Anybody have it?
Say this has been very pleasant, very enjoyable, and thanks for the effort you put into putting it together.
Sure. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Great job.
Nice.
All parts, every part. Well done. Well done.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, thanks, everyone. I'll see you.
Have a good
Stay safe.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.